Hello, hello. Well, I don't know where to start today, really, to be honest. I've sort of been asking myself the question recently about learning and what learning is. And I was trying to do a little bit of probing, shuffling around, looking at different ideas and such on the topic. And it's really difficult to find anything which is, which area of philosophy is really trying to, you know, pin this one down. And it's associated with epistemology, obviously, but I get, I feel that to refer to learning and knowledge as something along the same lines is, mm, well, I get the impression that just knowing things is not the same as learning things, and I think the two are clearly associated, but I think they're paired up too readily with each other. Like in the sense that, if I have lots of paint and I want to paint a picture, it's like, oh yeah, I have the painting, I paint this beautiful, wonderful picture, and therefore I have the paint, and then I have this picture. The paints are not the picture. And it's kind of like what's going on before this point is what's really interesting me. And the more I think about this, I just don't think we have a large enough range of concepts, or rather, an intricate amount of concepts to deal with this as a question, let alone to approach what kinds of problems it will entail. And I just don't, yeah, I really don't know what to say about this topic. So yeah, learning. What the hell is learning? All right, let's kind of look at what it isn't and what we often associate with learning. And I think it's extremely easy to just get drawn into the idea that, I study a book, I learn the information in it. I say I learn the information in it. But, I take in the information. Like, say, I've been reading this one recently. I've not fully comprehended all of it yet and not gone back over it enough. But, I get some of the main ideas, and this sparked different ideas in my head. But I could memorize every word of this book. And that doesn't mean I've learnt it. But we often use learn in that way. Like I've learned them by heart. But is that really learning? That's just storing the information. It's like I've stored the information in a robust manner where I can recall it without, I can recall it intact, as in the way I put it into my memory in the first place. Is that learning? In one sense of the word that we use it in a common everyday place, like in the school, like they test you, you go and take an exam, a history exam. They're testing your ability to learn things. But can you, is that really what we mean by learning? Because for me, there seems to be a hell of a lot more going on. Because we can learn and parrot things to a certain degree where we know, like we sound like we know what we're talking about. And I'm sure we've all met people like this before. And I know I have many a time. I've probably done the same thing myself, where I will say some things like I have some sort of authority in it, like I know about it. But and I believe that too. Again, this is the problem of fooling ourselves. And maybe, I just kind of had a thought. Maybe that is exactly what it is. Maybe the whole the whole of human learning is based on the fact that we are pretty stupid in the sense that we say things which are wrong, but we kind of, instead of accepting their wrongness, we will double down on them. We will believe them to be true. and that facilitates our learning. Is it finding the mistakes that is learning, really, rather than, is it the correction that is learning? Yeah, maybe that's the right way to think about this. Yeah, because like I'm saying, I'm not just talking about, you give me your phone number, I memorize it, I have that knowledge. This, I've got a bit of information. It can be, it's how I can use that is important and stuff. And yeah, how I can apply raw data to certain situations, but learning something new. And a lot of, I say, the reason I'm saying I can't really find a lot about this in terms of philosophy, a lot of it seems to be done in terms of learning about things like learning to ride a bike, learning to drive a car, learning to play tennis, learning to score a basket, and all that kind of stuff. And it's very much based on the cognitive motor functions, which I'm not saying aren't important, and that probably ties into it, the cerebellum and such, and how your brain functions. And they've actually found that in terms of mathematics. But my wondering is that if there's something else going on. Obviously, we always think about time and space, but we can shift that aside, and we can think in a more abstract sense, and we can learn in an abstract sense. We can come up with novel ideas and novel approaches. And it's sort of like more like the intuitive, unconscious processes going on, where it's kind of they bubble up from somewhere, and we have this idea, this spark, this epiphany, this moment of, right, maybe let's try that. That's an idea. And that is that thinking more than learning, or is learning thinking? Again, I'm getting really pedantic here about the terms we're using, and I feel there's something just amiss here. I was just looking up for like ancient Greek terms and see what I could find, and it was dianosa, or is it dianosa or something, or Diania? Sorry, Diania, which is kind of like through the mind. It kind of translates off, and I'm thinking that that's probably something like, if we're going to sort of visualize this in a kind of metaphorical sense, like we have the items like the raw data there, like say in an art gallery, on each side of the wall we've got pictures, paintings here, here, and the diania is like kind of, you're going through this and you're looking at all of these, and you're like taking in this fact, that fact, this raw data, that raw data, and you're then doing something with it. You're sparking a new idea, you're investigating, you're exploring, and you're learning as you do this. You're learning, you're connecting these, let's say, for the sake of just for, so it's easier to clarify in your head. Yeah, you're looking at this picture, you're looking at that picture, you're looking at another picture, or you are, but something's happening in your brain which is doing this, and it's trying out a connection. It's like going down this pathway, looking at all these paintings. Can I connect that up? Can I make something new from it, which is interesting? And then you try to use it in some function, but if it doesn't work, it's kind of gone. But it seems that that's what's going on unconsciously in some way. It's a horrible way to imagine this, to visualize it. But yeah, it really got me thinking about. Again, I was sort of thinking about Kant, because he's obviously asked, what can we know before we experience anything? Then it's like, how can we know? But yeah, knowing is not the learning. I was more interested, like, how can we learn anything? He was kind of asking that question as well, but it doesn't seem to be exactly in the same light. He was looking for the intuition in that sense. Like, what would be the intuitions of being able to know anything? Again, we learn through time and space, but it seems to be we are Well, I don't know. I don't know what it seems to be. This is the problem. It's a really strange thing. For some historical context, again, we've always had this throughout history, the tabula rasa, the blank slate theory, which is completely wrong, where people sort of said everyone is a blank slate when they're born, and you can basically mold anyone into anything and become anything and learn anything. And in the modern day scientific world, we refer to this more as like the plasticity of the brain. But of course, we're not born as a blank canvas, so to speak, a blank slate. We have certain innate qualities, but our experiences nurture these existing innate qualities. But it's something that a great many people don't know about the human brain, actually. The number of neurons you have in your brain is at its absolute highest when you are born, which seems kind of counterintuitive in a way. And this is what's really fascinating about many facts in the world. Like, what seems to be the obvious thing? Like, because I imagine most people would assume from birth, we have so many neurons, and like we develop more as we grow older. And as we become like a teenager, like lots of people, when I ask them this question, when do you think you have the most neurons in your brain? They just think, oh yeah, I know, when you're a teenager or early 20s, and then after that it kind of goes down a bit. But the way it actually happens is it's the number of neurons is not massively important, strangely enough. It's the connections will make the difference. And then when you're born, your neurons will die if they're not used. So in terms of language, which is probably the easiest one to explain, like a baby born anywhere in the world will be able to speak any language on the planet. But once you get to a certain age, you take that child to another country, like to China, to India, to wherever, and because of the certain inflections in the voice, the tonal languages, slight pronunciations, like in Asia, you get like the t da distinction is very subtle. It's not really there as much as more like da 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 da, and the L's and the R's, which we all know about, and it's kind of people kind of make a joke of Asian people like lice instead of rice and that kind of thing. Well, it's because the neurons you had, if from a baby, if you were born in England, you could understand the difference between rice and lice very easily, no problem, because the neuron you have, which makes that distinction, so to speak, not the neuron, but the neurons which are there in terms of your auditory capacities, will fire, they will be used, so you'll pay attention to it. And I can't remember who says this. Yeah, what fires together wires together. So basically, if two neurons are going off at the same time, they will wire together, make a connection, and that's kind of how you will get that foundation down. And again, when you get older, these things die out. You go to another country, different intonations, different aspects of their speech, and you can't hear it. You physically can't hear it. You have to kind of relearn, build up these connections again. Whereas when you're a baby, the connections are already there. But if they're not being used, then basically it's efficiency. The neurons die out. The pathways are not built up together. You don't need it. You don't need it. And it's an intriguing thought to think about, like when you look at a newborn baby, and they're just like, that is basically what they're doing. It's overload of information. Again, this is coming in consciously, and it's not yet being filtered out. The neurons are firing and wiring together to figure out what is needed in this world. How can I best be adapted and in tune with the data that's coming in? And that is what's kind of, that I guess is the learning principle in a way as well. It always strikes me as extraordinary how it's often the best way to do something is like the least likely path to take. It's like, what? That makes no sense. Like, I like to give this example as well. It's an interesting one. somewhere in Africa. So the elephants, they were being hunted and poached. So how did they decide to save these elephants and protect them? They basically had people who wanted to come and hunt elephants. They said, okay, come and hunt the elephants. So that stopped the elephants going into extinction by allowing people to hunt for them. And you might be thinking, like, what the hell? How can that possibly be true? Well, it works, because what happened in this situation was they paid people, they would charge people an extraordinary amount of money who wanted to come and shoot and hunt an elephant. And with that money, what they did was fund security for the whole area to stop poachers coming in and taking the elephants. So they could then afford to look after the elephants and protect them at the cost of 1 or 2 elephants being killed by super rich people who want to go hunting. And the local people were happy with this. Like, they, someone shoots an elephant, they get an elephant to eat for, like, God knows how long, who feed them for a month or 2 months or whatever. So it's kind of, it seems like, what? It's, in terms of what I was talking about before, like ethics and morality, it's like, this is a really interesting kind of, the utilitarian function, talking about speciesism as well, helping out the elephants, and also like the consequentialism. It's like, is this an ethical thing to do? In terms of the best for all utilitarian, it does seem to be, yeah. The hunters get to hunt, but they're rich. Only a privileged few do this. The people who are going to lose out, the ones that are poaching. So what do? They probably get jobs actually protecting the elephants instead. Again, it does seem like it's a win-win situation, but an elephant does die. So it's better than elephants being wiped out, but it's kind of like give with one hand, take with another. But it's just an interesting example of how things can go all over the place, and what seems counterintuitive, a counterintuitive solution to a problem can often work. And yeah, so maybe this learning, it's not. Maybe learning is actually unlearning. It is unlearning things. But if we can't actually define what learning means, because I was struggling right at the start of this, what does it mean to learn something? How can we talk about unlearning or not learning, the opposite to learning? So that's going to be a tough one to follow. So how can we focus on learning? Learning specifically. What is learning? And again, maybe there are different types of learning, which is, I just want to use one term for one specific thing here. Because memorizing things is not learning things. It feels like, yeah, memorizing is memorizing something. I guess memorizing something and understanding how it can be used. So I might give you some numbers to memorize. And I say, these numbers are important, memorize them. The only things you're kind of attaching to that number is, this number is important. But then being able to learn how to use the number. Like, I could give you clues, or you don't know. Like, how would you learn? How would you learn how to use the number? You can probably, you associate numbers to things that you know. How many numbers are there in the string I'm giving you? What could they represent? Am I the kind of person who's going to give you some kind of crazy puzzle? Is it just a phone number? Is it a password? What is it? So it's that kind of function. I give you the data. I have a raw piece of data. What can I do with it? What can I learn with this? Where can I place it? Where can I find anything useful for it? And if I cannot, it's going to dissipate. It's going to go away. And that does seem to be exactly the case, isn't it? Is it just the application of certain heuristics? I can't literally, if you give me a piece of information, I can't automatically apply it to every single other piece of data, knowledge, whatever you want to call it, I have in my head. I can't think about it in every single capacity. Consciously, anyway, I cannot. This is where I think the intuition comes in. And this idea, I don't like to use this term, but I hear it quite a lot, that the flow state. I'm not even sure what it means, to be honest. It sounds a bit woo-woo to me in a way, but I know it's been sort of, there's scientific research on this kind of thing, sort of a meditative state. And I am very, very intrigued by all this. It's something I wish I knew how to approach from a philosophical perspective. The scientific perspective, I think, is like through neurosciences and the phenomenological application to neuroscience. Through phenomenology, again, you can approach anything through phenomenology. But yeah, it's such a broad field. And so I guess if I'm asking, do I just need to pick one line of investigation and see where it leads? But how do we have those epiphanies? How do these thoughts, these ideas, these collections of data, these schemes, these maps of the world, how do they accumulate and form into one thing and spark something else? Again, this is something I want to. This is probably going to be my next book that I'm going to go into properly. Because there's something in here which is, well, his view is very much like this, and it's when I read it, I was like, oh my god, this is exactly what I was saying before quite a few times. Where you have the synthesis and the creation of a new concept, and this is like an ongoing process. And I've kind of viewed this talking briefly about something on a philosophy forum with some guy, just touched on it for a tiny second, talking about like apodictic knowledge and like how you can know things. Anyway, I'm going off a bit here. So anyway, as an example of this kind of synthesis, antithesis, and the creation of new concepts, new ideas, new paradigms, so to speak. Like, I think we've all heard about what happens, the contrary question of what happens when an unmovable object collides with an unstoppable force, and that when this cannot be stopped, this cannot be moved, and this hits that, what happens? My answer to this is quite simple, quite obvious, but it might sort of go past, like people say, we don't know. Well, I would say one thing that's going to happen is we do not even have any conscious awareness of what happens. Our brains cannot comprehend what happens, so we just blot it out, blank it out, even if we have some kind of perception of it in some way. It's just, it will undermine our psychological being so much, our fundamental principles. It will shake our world so much that we will just, it's easy for us to ignore it. What else will happen is we will just create a new set of concepts about this principle. We will say, oh, this happened, that happened, oh my God. We either don't understand what happens, refuse to recognize what happens, or we create a new concept from it. We create a new dichotomy from this. But that initial, there would be a paradigm shift in that sense. But yeah, with this thing of the learning, it's like, what is the antithesis of learning? This is another topic I want to get into. Again, I want to, it will probably make more sense to go into sort of the whole linguistic turn in philosophy at some point. But there are a great many things to get into in terms of philosophy. But learning today's just really been battering my head in a little bit. Been thinking about it. And I can't quite, just sort of thought I'd come on here and just spout crap out my mouth, see what comes out. Philosophical ramblings. Although I don't feel particularly philosophical at the moment. It's just more like blind musings about things. Hopefully it's vaguely interesting though. But yeah, learning, learning, learning. This is something I might have to sit down and just write about and see what comes out. I do tend to find that writing, as I was saying in the previous video I made, it's when I'm writing, it flows out in a much more natural style. With speaking, bumbling around quite a lot. But hopefully it will improve over time. If it doesn't, let me know. Been a whole lifetime, it's not really improved too much. But anyway, yeah. Should I leave it there, I think? Yeah. So I guess my main questions to you here would be if someone would, oh my God, please, someone write in the comments and throw me some ideas or something, some way to approach this topic, because I can't find a lot. But just raw learning, not education. Again, a lot of the things I'm finding are education, pedagogy, and such. But yeah, what is it to learn something? To learn is to unlearn. To learn is to take what you have as knowledge and to disassociate from it. Is that what it is? Is it to explore lesser traveled pathways, so to speak? But there's certainly there's things which aid learning a lot, like narratives are something that really do intrigue me. You can learn a lot through narrative form, and it can explain, can hold a lot more detail than you think. I remember doing this many years ago in a chemistry class. I was doing like A-level chemistry, but I was just like, I'm sick of this. I don't want to bother with it anymore. And I just focused on something else instead, physics. I was taking all the sciences at the time. And yeah, in one lesson, I was just like, I just make up some stupid story going along with the information being given out by the teacher. And yeah, so to the fish mechanism, like the lock and key thing. And that just sort of stuck in my head always, because I just remembered, I just like made up this stupid story of a guy going fishing with a key, and it stuck in my head to this day. Again, the whole, like the mnemonic systems as well. Again, these are memory systems, and it's this. I'm really hesitant to say that to remember something is learning it, but obviously they're connected here, and this is the thing that's getting to me a lot. It's kind of like a lot of these mnemonic systems, especially like Giordano Bruno, for example, with his ideas and his crazy memory systems. The guy was a goddamn genius, so apparently, and like a polyglot. But it's having that it seems to be like that kind of freewheeling ability to interchange certain facts and look at things in parallel connection to each other, to associate things which are completely usually dissociated. It seems to be a way that creativity and learning develops. Is creativity learning? Is that exactly what it is? It's this kind of fruitful. It's this kind of yeah, it's like uninhibited exploration in a way within your head. You're just playing around. Anyway, that's like nearly 30 minutes rambling away, so I'm going to leave it there. It's, yeah, I guess I'm going to have to title this one Epistemology in general? What the hell is learning? That is my title. Of course, this is not meant to be anything conclusive. It's just food for thought, so to speak. Oh, I'll leave it there. Have I made any progress? Kind of. It is surprising just how speaking you can. Ironically, by speaking now, I've learned how to learn. I've learned some things that I didn't know. I've created some ideas just by talking. which does take me back to the actual. Let me just have a look at this, because I was just looking up. I say the Greek meanings. This is going to be it then, really, isn't it? What was it? The Dioneia. Is it Dioneia? Oh God, where's it gone? Yeah, maybe that is what I'm talking about. Yeah. Dionoia. Let me just get it. I can't pronounce anything for the love of God. Paste. How is this pronounced? Pronunciation. Here we are.
Dianoia.
Dianoia. Or Dianoia. So yeah. I think this is a term that I kind of latched onto. It seemed the most appropriate term to use for what I'm talking about. But anyway, yeah. That is that. Bye-bye.